Hey there! Welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. This one is an entitled People Pro Revenge story. I've lived in my beachfront home for over a decade now. It's my little slice of paradise. Nothing but sand, sun, and surf right outside my door. I purposely bought a place at the very end of the beach so I'd have more privacy. My property extends about 100 feet out past the high tide line, so I essentially have my own private section of beach. Or at least I used to, until Karen moved in next door. Karen was the newly elected president of our neighborhood homeowner association. I should mention right off the bat that I'm not an homeowner association member. When I bought my place, the homeowner association was still pretty lax, but Karen got voted in on promises of restoring order and upholding community standards. In other words, she was on a major power trip. From day one, Karen was a nightmare neighbor. She criticized every little thing about my home and yard. Apparently, my paint colors weren't appropriate, and my landscaping was unsightly. Keep in mind, my house sits on a literal beach. What does she expect, rose gardens and hedges? Still, I tried to keep the peace. I even attempted to welcome her when she first moved in. I baked cookies and walked them over as a friendly, neighborly gesture. But Karen made it abundantly clear she wanted nothing to do with me. She accused me of trying to poison her with homemade food. After that, I kept my distance. Unfortunately, Karen didn't extend me the same courtesy. The first sign of trouble came about a month after Karen moved in. I awoke early one Saturday morning and strolled out to the beach with my coffee in hand. But when I got there, I was shocked to see Karen and a group of other homeowner association members camped out on my private beach. They had set up chairs, umbrellas, coolers, the whole 9 yards. I politely but firmly told them they were on my property and needed to leave. Well, Karen wasn't having it. She insisted the beach belonged to the entire neighborhood. I calmly explained the property boundaries and even showed her the survey stakes marking the lines. Karen just got angrier and angrier. She accused me of being selfish and not sharing community assets. I stood my ground and eventually they packed up in a huff. I figured that was the end of it. But oh, how wrong I was. A few weeks later, I awoke to find a bonfire blazing on my beach. I ran outside in disbelief. There must have been 30 homeowner association members partying around that fire. They were roasting marshmallows and blasting music like they didn't have a care in the world. Once again, I asked them to leave my property. This time, Karen flat out refused. She claimed they had every right to use the beach as paying homeowner association members. I reminded her I didn't pay homeowner association dues, but she didn't care. I ended up having to call the police, which finally convinced them to take the party elsewhere, but the very next night, they were back. This time with tents pitched in addition to another raging bonfire. It was like my requests went in one ear and out the other. Nobody cared one bit they were trespassing. The police came again to clear them out, but by this point I realized I needed a permanent solution. I hired a contractor to install a fence running along my property line into the water. It wasn't cheap, but it would finally give me my privacy back. Well, the fence just made Karen irate. As the contractor started digging post holes in the sand, she came storming out of her house screaming at them to stop. When Karen saw they weren't listening, she got right up in my face, threatening to sue me if I built the fence. I calmly told Karen to go right ahead and try suing. My lawyer would love to educate her on property lines and trespassing laws. Karen stomped off in a rage, but the contractor continued working. Within 2 days, my beautiful driftwood fence was up. It only took a day for Karen to retaliate. I awoke to find nearly 100 homeowner association members lined up along my fence. Karen stood at the front with a smug grin. She announced they were holding an homeowner association meeting on the beach, and my ugly fence wasn't going to stop them from using neighborhood property. I'll admit, the sight of all those people crowded around my fence line made me uneasy. It seemed more like an angry mob than a meeting. Thankfully, I had an ace up my sleeve. I had installed security cameras covering every inch of beach. With one tap on my phone, I could record everything, so I subtly turned on the cameras while telling Karen one last time to get her group off my beach. When she refused, I let them know they were being recorded. Most people shuffled away nervously, not wanting to get caught trespassing, but Karen stood firm with her loyal minions. Though it pained me greatly, I called the police to remove the mob from my property. With footage in hand, I urged the officers to charge the trespassers. The cops managed to disperse the crowd by threatening citations. Karen screamed the whole way back to her house about suing me. And sue me she did. The very next week, I was served papers about a lawsuit claiming I had illegally seized homeowner association property by building the fence. Karen's witnesses claimed the beach belonged to the neighborhood. She even doctored photos trying to prove her case. Thankfully, I had truth on my side. My lawyer presented the property surveys, purchase records, and footage of Karen repeatedly trespassing. The judge dismissed Karen's lawsuit faster than you can say frivolous, but the judge did grant my request for a restraining order against Karen. She could no longer set foot on my property or harass me about the fence. Karen also got slapped with hundreds of dollars in fines for her ridiculous lawsuit. Needless to say, Karen was downright venomous after her humiliating defeat in court. For a while, she shot dirty looks my way anytime I enjoyed my private beach. She tried convincing other neighbors I was hurting property values by not sharing the beach. Of course, no one took Karen's side after witnessing her unhinged behavior. With time, Karen seemed to accept the loss of her perceived communal property. She turned her attention to nitpicking other poor residents about minor landscaping issues or painting colors. I heard rumors she was facing a revolt to remove her as homeowner association president. As for me, I'm just glad to finally have my paradise back. The view past my beautiful fence is clear again. Nothing but rolling waves and peace and quiet. The only trespassing on my beach these days is by the local wildlife and the occasional gust of wind. My property may be small, but it's mine. And no homeowner association. Karen can ever take that away from me again. The next one is a pro-revenge story. The year was 1985. I had just turned 45 and was settling into my second retirement after a long career. Looking for a new project, I decided to try my hand at property management. I found a beautiful 2,500 square foot luxury home that seemed perfect to rent out. It was move-in ready, in a nice neighborhood. Everything looked great on paper. What I didn't account for was the homeowner association from hell. As soon as I became the owner, it was like a target had been painted on my back. The homeowner association president, Karen, made it her personal mission to scrutinize my every move. This woman was ruthless. She prowled the neighborhood in her golf cart, looking for the slightest infraction to slap a fine on. Trash cans out too long, a stray weed in the garden, anything. People nicknamed her Queen Karen for her dictatorial rule. With her husband's fat paychecks, she didn't need to work, leaving Karen with nothing but time to harass her neighbors. I tried to keep my head down, but being the new guy in town, it was impossible to escape her watchful eye. One Saturday evening, I was over at the rental house spending time with the tenants, who were old friends of mine. We had some music on, but it wasn't blaring. Around 8 p.m., Queen Karen comes zooming over in her golf cart, robe flying behind her, and starts shrieking at us to turn the music down. I calmly informed her it was within quiet hours and refused to turn it off. You could see the rage boiling inside Karen at being defied. A week later, I got a letter fining me for a noise complaint. This was the last straw. I contested the fine at the next homeowner association meeting, and after presenting my case, the board agreed Karen had overstepped. You'd think this public embarrassment would make her back off, but it only intensified her hatred of me. She scrutinized my every move, just waiting for an excuse to slap another fine on me. She even started targeting my tenants, barging onto the property unannounced, scouring for violations. One night, as I was leaving the rental house, Karen came racing over in her robe, ranting that I couldn't park in front of my own garage. I was so shocked by this insane demand that I acquiesced just to avoid a confrontation. As I pulled away, I noticed a man embracing Karen on her front porch, and it definitely wasn't her husband. I mentioned what I'd seen to the tenants, and we realized Karen was having an affair. We debated whether to tell her husband, but ultimately decided he deserved to know the truth. Let's just say the divorce was swift and messy. Karen got taken to the cleaners. She had to sell her precious luxury car and took on an air of bitterness and resentment, despite still living comfortably off her settlement. If we thought a divorce would rein Karen in, we were dead wrong. She doubled down on her homeowner association tyrant behavior. Got a trash can out a few hours before pickup? That'll be a fine. Dare to park an older car in the driveway? Fine. Me and the other neighbors quickly had enough of Queen Karen's increasingly deranged reign. At the next homeowner association meeting, We confronted her about the ridiculous fines and a new 15% increase in dues she tried to sneak by. Karen went on some tirade about expenses and repairs, but the budget breakdown raised some red flags. I wasted no time digging through the financials and quickly realized she was embezzling money to support her lifestyle. We sprung into action, gathering evidence and filing joint lawsuits, until finally the truth came out. Karen had been living off dirty money this whole time. In the end, the courts found her guilty of fraud and extortion. I tell you, the day I saw Karen escorted out in cuffs was a great day indeed. She ended up having to mortgage her house to pay us back and got sentenced to years in prison. Once Karen was locked away, there was no one left to pay for the big fancy house, so it went into foreclosure. By the time she got out, she had nothing. I heard Karen even ended up homeless for a while there. Looking back, I almost feel bad for her. If only she had acted fairly as homeowner association president instead of a corrupt dictator, she could have avoided that whole mess. But sometimes karma comes back around in unexpected ways. In the end, we neighbors banded together and found justice against the infamous Queen Karen. Peace finally returned to the neighborhood, but I'll never forget that crazy year going up against the homeowner association from hell. The next one is Am I the A-hole story. My name's Amanda, and I'm a 32-year-old graphic designer. I moved into my cozy little suburban home about 3 years back looking for some peace and quiet. My husband Tyler and I have always been pretty introverted. We value our privacy and rarely socialize with the neighbors. That all changed when she moved in across the street. It was a sunny Saturday morning when I first spotted the moving truck outside the vacant house. I watched curiously from my living room window as a perky blonde woman in her late 20s directed the movers this way and that. She had 2 young kids running wild in the front yard while she barked orders. I had a bad feeling about her already. Our neighborhood is usually so calm and quiet. I could tell this woman would disrupt that. Sure enough, the very next day as I was gardening, the woman sauntered over and introduced herself as Jenna. Before I could even respond, she was rapid-firing personal questions at me. Do I have kids? No. Am I interested in play dates or mom groups? No. Can I recommend any fun activities in the area? No. With each no, her perky smile faded a little more. By the end, she was practically scowling. I got the sense she was sizing me up, determining if I was friend or foe. When she asked if my husband was as antisocial as me, I'd had enough. I told her flat out that we were private people and didn't care to befriend neighbors. Her lips pressed into a tight line, and I could see the judgment in her eyes. She turned abruptly and marched back across the street. So much for keeping the peace. That was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Jenna made it her mission to hassle me whenever possible. She shot dirty looks when I retrieved the mail. She loudly gossiped with other neighbors about my unfriendliness. I even spotted her peering through my windows once, though she pretended otherwise when I called her out. I soon found myself dreading leaving the house, never knowing what antagonism awaited me. My introverted sanctuary had been disrupted. It all came to a head on a sunny Saturday, not unlike the one when Jenna first arrived. As I watered my roses, I heard children shrieking nearby. I looked up to see Jenna's kids trampling my flower beds, smashing my blooms under their feet. Jenna stood right there watching, a smug look on her face. I lost it. "Get your hellspawn off my property," I yelled. Jenna gasped dramatically. "How dare you? My children are just being kids. Maybe if you had your own, you'd understand." We exchanged more heated words. It ended with her shouting that I was an uptight idiot, and me saying she was a nightmare neighbor. Storming off, I made up my mind then and there. This woman had to go. Over the next few weeks, I enacted my plan. I called the city about her unpermitted front porch addition. I reported her loud parties to the police. I even may have exaggerated some things, like claiming her kids vandalized my car. Soon enough, moving trucks were back outside Jenna's house. As she drove away for the last time, she flipped me off. I happily returned the gesture. Finally, sweet silence returned to my neighborhood. Sure, maybe I went a little overboard getting rid of her, but Jenna gave me no choice. She was determined to ruin my peaceful home. In the end, this just proves I was right from the start. We were never going to get along, and I'll be damned if I let someone like that drive me out. This is my space. She had to go. So, internet judges, tell me honestly, am I the a-hole here? Comment 1, not the a-hole. You have every right to want to keep to yourself and not be harassed by an overly pushy neighbor. Jenna clearly had no respect for your boundaries. While you maybe got a little carried away with your schemes to get rid of her, I don't blame you for feeling pushed to your limits. Overall, Jenna sounds like the main antagonist here. You were just protecting your peace and sanity. Comment 2. Everyone sucks here. Yeah, Jenna shouldn't have been so pushy and judgmental, but you escalated things way too far with your tireless crusade against her. Calling the city and police with exaggerated or false claims is taking it to a crazy level. A mature adult would have found a more reasonable way to set boundaries and coexist civilly. You let your dislike for her justify really manipulative behavior. Comment 3. You are the a-hole. You judged Jenna from the start and made zero effort to give her a chance. She was probably just trying to make friends, and you immediately shut her down in a really rude way. You admit you enjoy being antisocial. Sounds like the problem is you, not her. Jenna had every right to live there with her family and make an effort to get to know her neighbors. You don't own the neighborhood. The way you targeted her relentlessly was uncalled for. Get some help for your people issues. Update. I wanted to provide an update on the situation with my neighbor Jenna since so many of you have been asking. After our big blow-up argument, Jenna actually came over to my house the next day and apologized. She said she realized she had come on too strong when she first moved in and didn't properly respect my privacy or boundaries. I apologized too for immediately writing her off as a nuisance and not giving her more of a chance. We had a long talk and I think we understand each other better now. Jenna explained she was just very eager to make friends in the new neighborhood. As an extrovert and outgoing person, she couldn't imagine anyone wanting to keep to themselves. But she sees now that was wrong to judge me and try to force a friendship before getting to know me. I told Jenna I regretted exaggerating things when I reported her to the city and police. That was an overreaction, and I shouldn't have tried to get her into trouble based on my own biases. We agreed that moving forward, we will be respectful acquaintances who give each other space, but can also be kind and civil when we interact outside. Jenna will keep her kids from trespassing on my property, and I will refrain from calling the authorities on her unnecessarily. I'm glad we were able to resolve things amicably without continuing to escalate the conflict. This experience taught me not to prejudge people who are different from me. Jenna and I may never be friends, but we can coexist peacefully in the neighborhood. In the end, clear communication and willingness to understand each other went a long way. I appreciate those who commented with thoughtful perspectives. This situation reminded me that we all have room for growth when relating to our neighbors. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.